Welcome to this, the first tutorial on the new look tables in Pronto 6.0. Note that there has been a name change. In versions prior to Pronto 6.0, tables were called reports or interval reports. Tables still allow you to view data in any recorded data streams in tabular form, typically summarizing the data over specified intervals. For example, finding the 10-minute averages of data streams that were recorded using the more detailed adaptive store recording process. The main differences between the old reports and new tables are the addition of summary statistics, e.g. maximum and minimum values per column of data, and there are more options that can be set up to format the way the table is displayed, printed, and exported. To demonstrate how to create and set up a basic table, we'll use the following example. We'll generate a table of 10-minute averages from a week-long adaptive store recording. In particular, we'll look at the RMS volts on each of the phases on a 3-phase 4-wire Y configuration, as if we were checking for basic compliance against the EN 5160 standards. This example will focus on generating the basic table. We'll look at adding summary statistics in the next tutorial. Firstly, we open the project we're interested in. We can now either select the data streams we want to include in the Contents window of the project browser or in the Table Assistant. We'll do it in the Table Assistant. So we click on New Table and then Using Assistant. The new Table Assistant has 6 tabs, although you don't need to fill them all in before you click on Finish to create the table. The Table Assistant will always start pre-filled with the options you set last time. The first tab, labeled Title, gives you the option to add a title block of data above the table. In this example, we'll include a title block with the table title, today's date, and a few other details. You'll notice that on the right-hand side of the tab there is a new Help pane. This first tab is fairly self-explanatory, but the Help may be of particular use in the Data or Formatting tabs we'll come to next. The Help pane can be turned off by clicking on the X and turned back on by clicking on the Show Help panel button. It can be resized by dragging the splitter bar. Now we can move on to the second tab, which I'll do by either clicking directly on the tab label or clicking on the Next button. Tabs 2A, 2B and 2C are used to specify what data is displayed in the table. Tab 2A allows us to select the data streams to base the table on. This tab uses a new data selection process. This is covered extensively in the data selection tutorials on our website, so we won't describe it in any more detail here. However, we will use some of the functionality to make the data selection easier. As we're only interested in volts AC, we'll group the data by type to get the data streams grouped into one level of folders. Opening the volts folder, we can see that in this project the only volts streams are the RMS ones we're interested in, so we can click on the folder to select them all. Having chosen the base data streams, we need to specify exactly what data we want in each column of the table, so we go to tab 2B. We want the table to give the 10-minute averages of the data, or more specifically the 10-minute means. So we want one column for each data stream, which is the mean of that data over the specified time interval which we set below. So I clear the preset columns that were set based on what I'd previously used, and with all base data streams selected, I select the mean parameter. I now have 3 columns in my table. If I wanted to, I could add other columns for one or more of the data streams. So for example, if I wanted a column of the maximum values in each 10-minute interval of data for just phase 3, I could select the phase 3 data stream and add the maximum column. I could then move the column to earlier in the table by picking it up and dragging it. The top columns in the list are drawn at the left edge of the table. However, I don't want this column, so to remove it, I can either click on it and click on the Remove Columns button, or just deselect the maximum checkbox. Now that we've specified the columns to include in the table, we need to set the time interval for the data to be generated. We want each row of the table to correspond to 10 minutes of recorded data. So we set a fixed time interval of 10 minutes. The way this works is exactly as it did in reports in previous versions of Pronto. We don't need to change any other settings, so can move on. We won't set any summary statistics yet, so we can move on to tab 3, which allows us to choose what time period to base the table on. We want exactly a week, and, as it happens, this data was recorded for exactly a week. We can see that, with the Zoom to setting set to all data, the duration of all the data is exactly 1 week. If we drag either of these slider thumbs, we can see how the selected duration changes. As a further example, if we'd only wanted the table to cover a single day from midnight to midnight, say, we could have used these snap to and fixed duration controls. Selecting snap to of a day restricts the thumbs to day boundaries, as you can see. Then if we select a fixed duration of a day, you can see how the duration has changed to a single day and the thumbs are locked at 1 day apart. But we want a week, so we click on fixed duration of a week. Moving on, the final tab, tab 4, allows us to set up how the table will look. Firstly, we want to include just the 10-minute data. We haven't asked for any summary statistics. We'll also turn on row numbers for easier table reference. Because the table will span 7 days, we'll include both the time and date columns, which are the first columns on the left of the table. We can now set the font and color for the table text. In this case, to make the main data easier to view and scroll, we'll make it slightly smaller than the title block of text. We do this by first unlocking the 2 fonts so that we can set them independently, then changing the table font. We'll change the font size to 8. We could set up the individual column widths, but I expect the auto sizing will do a good job. We can check by clicking on Set up column widths. These widths look fine, although if we weren't happy we could set them individually by clicking and dragging on the thumbnails. For more information, refer to the help in Pronto by clicking on the Help button or pressing F1. Lastly, we can set the output format. There are a range of options, but in this case we'll only output as a Pronto table. Now we're all set and can click on Finish. This table is very small, so it doesn't take long to create, and here it is. At the top is a title block, and if we scroll down, we get the full table of data. If there's anything we want to change about the table, we can either double click on it or right click and choose Edit Table to reopen the Table Assistant. If you're happy with the table, don't forget to save it in the project by clicking on Save. If we close it, we can go back to the Tables category in the project and see it in the list. If we want to open it again, we can just select it and click Open. That's the end of this tutorial, but please also see the other table tutorials on our website. A second tutorial looks at generating maximum, minimum and 95th percentile summary statistics of the 10-minute averages generated in this table. And a third tutorial looks specifically at generating and exporting harmonic statistics to Excel. Many thanks.